And for this exercise, I went again to this Chia winner of the 2010 award, and I looked at the learning outcomes as formulated in that program. Now, I hope that I have sufficient papers, but well, we do our best. You can share if it's not sufficient.
Perhaps we can share. Yeah. I think I've seen this before. I've seen this workshop. Yeah, so I've seen it before.
Here you find the Master of Science learning outcomes for two kind of master courses. At the first page you'll find the learning outcomes as defined for the Master of Science Education for higher education professionals. And at the second page you'll find them for the P to 12 education specializations, which is for the younger pupils. What you see is already a difference. In the higher education professionals, there are 4 learning outcomes defined. Synthesize best practices in higher education, demonstrate professional and ethical leadership, demonstrate professional competence, so you see the mix again between learning outcome and competence, interpret and apply education research in higher education. These are, what I would say, very broad learning outcomes. I would even classify them on the level of competences. You are competent in applying and interpreting research and demonstrate professional competence. The words in itself shows a very, very high concept. When you go to the other side, then you find some, 8 or so, more specific learning outcomes for the students, teachers in lower forms. Well, you can already see what happens there. Possess understanding of subject matter at place within and across discipline. You're not supposed to be a teacher in a certain language, English language or French language, and you have to know the subject matter. You can imagine that this learning outcome could be defined in certain more specific items. Should you be fluent in speaking? Should you be fluent in writing? Should you know all the grammar? Well, you can distinguish whatever you want. So in a general thing, you can say, well, if there's an understanding of the subject matter, then from there we can define in a program the level of the learning outcomes. Even more so, if you look at the second one, use multiple instructional models, resources, and management and pedagogical strategies to meet the need of diverse learners. Now there are already at least four different concepts involved in this learning outcome. It should go on instructional models. What variety of instructional models is there at all? I'm talking to you in a group. There's a bit of interaction, but it is still quite a, I would say, teacher-centered educational model I'm applying here. Different from a workshop in which from the onset you would say, we are going to work on this and that exercise. But it is, of course, only one of maybe 6 or 7 or 8 various models. You've got a role plays. You were at a conference in Vienna with Colin, of course, in the head role, playing a role play for also assessment of learning outcomes. All kinds of instructional models which you have to know, not only, but you also be able to use them properly. So you can already see a lot of learning outcomes can be connected to this general learning outcome. About the resources, I'm using a PowerPoint now, you can use flip overs, you can use whatever you like. From there you can read and describe the learning outcomes supposed to be gained by the students. Management, pedagogical strategies also. But now the question is, how are we going to assess it? I would suggest you take the second one. Use multiple instructional models, resources, and management pedagogical strategies. And you discuss with your neighbor for 2 minutes, how would I assess one of those elements? And then I come back in 2 minutes. 3 minutes. I have two neighbors. You have to choose who's your neighbor, your closest neighbor. So make the second one, use multiple instructional models, resources, and management of pedagogical strategies to meet the need of diverse learners. And how would I assess that a student would have reached this learning outcome?
I have a question. Of course, how, but why? Why should I assess? I mean, it's an intrinsic value to use these multiple instructional models. I can use only one and to be very effective.
Yeah, that would fail the course, eh? Because in this course,
why should I use all these high-tech things?
It's not a question here.
Ah.
I'm offering, suppose I'm offering a course and say, well, at the end of the course, you will be able to use this. Okay, you say, I don't want to, I only want one, then you don't go for this course.
To enroll in another course.
But in this course, you will be assessed on it, otherwise you will fail the course. So it's not a matter of why. We are offering programs, and in this program, a certain student will, in the end, be able to use this, so pass this test. You see also behind, it's very, very interesting, how the students have passed it. Some distinguished, 96%, 4% proficient, and the rest basic. The rest is not mine. For this semester. How would we assess it? Please take 4 minutes.
What are these methods how to assess? That was the question.
Yeah, I think that's
yeah. So do you think I'm not only thinking, okay, there should be more feedback system.
You mean that they have to teach in the classes and then receive feedback?
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting part multiple instructional resources. I mean, that means a bit like using different techniques. So you would have to let people apply in the classroom. But the meeting that I need of their worst learners I'm sorry, that means. And I think I understand that they just can be proficient or distinguished, and the 96% distinguished assessment.
Yeah, but how it has been measured?
Well, I think I don't know.
Yes. But anyway, if the question is so that how to assess this kind of it, I don't know more than you will have to have a feedback system in order to say something at least. Something else.
But by feedback system, you mean that
perhaps I don't get the point.
I think we don't have to look at this really, because I think the only thing we should supposed to do is come up with an idea how we would assess this outcome.
This is what I understand. So they have done something and now.
So you would let them do it basically in practice. I mean, let them use multiple instructions. Yeah, I would agree.
Could there be something else?
Okay, we are through. We are all through. I know you have not finished the time, but that's not the idea that we will finish it. It's just for getting a bit in the mood of, yeah, we have this kind of learning outcome, but now, I think I'll put it on. How are we going to assess it? So I go for the first word, use multiple instructional models. How are we going to see that the student has reached that learning outcome? Any suggestions?
Ask him to teach.
Ask him to teach. Huh? Sit in a class, and there he is, the student, giving this one model, teaching directed learning, or whatever it is, instruction, and say, well, does he do it properly? Has he made a good presentation? Is it clear where we are? Is his explanation clear? And how can we follow that? By sitting in class. That's quite laborious, of course. It takes a lot of time to go and sit in class. But happily, we have a video recorder. Yeah? So someone takes it on the video and brings it back to school and says, well, we have a look. And what were your weak points? What were your strong points? That's just how you can use this specific model. Maybe it's a bit different for other models. A work group, yeah, and a video, maybe you shoot different things, I don't know. But that's it. You have to sit in class. So it's quite a good example. Other suggestions on this specific matter?
We were thinking of feedback system.
Feedback system, yeah. Yeah. We could have an evaluation form in the end and say, do you think this teacher, this man, De Vries from Holland, you know, was he well in this teacher, and you should be a bit precise, in this teacher instructed model? And you will rate it and say, in a scale from 1 to 5, no, I think it's 2, was not very good. Or it was 4, oh, very well. And this kind of thing. In the end, you could say, well, the student appreciation of this model was at least satisfactory, or good, or not satisfactory. So it all adds to the proof if he can use, or he, she can use this instructional model. So what happens is, for really seeing that the learning outcome like this one has been achieved, you need multiple proofs also. Multiple proofs, not only at the end maybe, but also proofs already starting in the beginning, from maybe the first year and second year onward. And you can build it up, in this case, in a portfolio. You take maps like this, and I'm very keen on portfolios, as you know, things like this, in which you put all your proofs you have taken and gathered, and in the end, maybe you have enough evidence to show, well, I am able to line up to this specific learning outcome. But there's also different and much easier ways of checking if things are right. Possessed understanding. Maybe I can just do it with an exam. If my understanding of a certain subject is all right, I can have a written exam or an oral exam, and if I fail, then I probably have not enough knowledge, and if I pass, then I have sufficient knowledge. There are all different ways, depending on the type of learning outcome, how to say. It could be thesis work, it could be day-to-day sessions following, it could be reports, research reports. If I'm researching, my article in a magazine would be sufficient proof that I am researching. So assessment of learning outcomes is very much linked to what the learning outcome itself is, and that's why it's so important to define your learning outcomes as precise as possible, so that there is not much room, again, between what is the learning outcome and the assessment. It is becoming more or less the same, because the learning outcome is the demonstration of a certain skill, a certain amount of knowledge, or whatever. Martin, do you agree? Okay. Yeah, you said no. Yeah? We continue, yeah? Is this a bit of an illustration of how you can go about assessment of learning outcomes? Then, of course, you have not solved the problem. Not at all, I would say. Because you get the second one, and that is, when is each